Okay, so we'll continue from. So, in the last three verses, if you remember, Krishna is this whole section after Krishna described in detail about Atma Jnana, about in 15-20 verses, he described about the soul as well as the characteristics of the soul. Then Krishna he talked about Karma Kanda and Karma Yoga. He is contrasting between the two. And that section we are still studying that. We will continue studying that. So this verse is basically Krishna's answer to Arjuna's hesitation that Arjuna says, by fighting in this battle I'll actually incur sin. Krishna says, no, you won't incur sin because you are doing your dharma as kshatriya, and when you do that you will either get killed in this fight and go to heavenly planets, or you would enjoy the earthly kingdom. Because you're a kshatriya, it is your dharma to perform your fight, and either of these results is not going to give you any sinful reactions. And then after that, Krishna says, actually he takes to the next platform. This is karma kanda platform, means you enjoy the fruits of your action. But next verse, Sukadukha Samakritva, this verse takes to the next level, where Krishna says, do thou fight for the sake of fighting. Do it just for the sake of fighting, because you're a kshatriya, it is your duty. Just do it for the sake of fighting, without considering I'm going to get happiness or distress. One of the reasons Arjuna says is there is no enjoyment, because the people I'm going to kill are all my relatives, and I cannot sit on the glory of the killing of my own relatives. So I'll be miserable. There is no enjoyment in that. So Krishna says, don't consider your happiness or your distress, or your loss or gain, victory or defeat. Either you win or lose in this battle. Don't worry about that. Do it as your duty. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting. And by doing so, you will never incur sin. Similarly, it is a very important instruction for us in our own practical life. Many times we hesitate to take a step considering our own loss or gain, victory or failure in our attempts. But when we do it as our duty, because it was a given duty at office, or for your own overall long-term well-being, even though in the short term it may not be very palatable, we do it as a duty. In that consciousness, if you do without considering any of these aspects, then that will never incur any sin. We get sin. It means that we get sin when we consider these things, because you are fruitive minded in considering your own enjoyment, because you are not ultimately the enjoyer. God is the supreme enjoyer, and we are part and parcel of the whole system, and so we should not consider our own enjoyment. We studied this last week. Esha Bhiti Sankhya, this one also we studied. Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. That is the one that is given before, which is soul. He divided the aspect of the soul, gave a detailed explanation on the characteristics. That is analytical study. Now listen as I explain in terms of working without fruitive results. Karma yoga. Working without fruitive results, not considering the fruitive results. Do it as a duty. I am bound to do it. This is my duty. I will perform. I will take care of my children without expecting anything from them, like that. O son of Pita, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. The same point like before. Now this is very interesting. This also I think we quickly covered this. Neha Vikramanasosthi Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpamapyasya dharmasya Trayate mahato bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Krishna is saying, any endeavor, if you endeavor without considering the fruits of the action that you are performing, without worrying about the fruit results, when you perform your duty, there is no sin incurred. So when you do your duties in that fashion, with that consciousness, what happens? That becomes a spiritual activity, and any progress in spiritual dimension will continue to be there with you through this life and to the next life. Even if you don't complete it completely, generally people may think, oh, what if I don't get perfection at the end of this life? Arjuna would himself ask this question at the, I think the fourth chapter, I think. What is the use of life of a yogi who forsaked all the material enjoyment in this world? He hasn't enjoyed the world for the sake of achieving spiritual truth, spiritual goal. He had forsaken his family, he has gone to forest, he has meditated, he gave up everything, enjoyment, eating nice foods and all. He did all of that, but ultimately he didn't achieve perfection. He could not cut it. He hasn't succeeded spiritually in attaining liberation. What happens to such a yogi? Is he not um, like a cloud, like a withered cloud, a section of the cloud? If it moves away from the majority of the cloud, it's just like a um, like a disconnected piece of cloud. Will his life be, he neither enjoyed material life nor he enjoyed spiritual life? Will that not be considered a complete waste of life? uh, he didn't make any tangible progress either in either direction. uh, Krishna says, swalpam apyasa dharmasa, this same, any little progress made in spiritual dimension will continue with the spirit to the next life. So if he has completed 30%, he would continue from 31st%, not 0%. Any progress you made materially in terms of, say, accumulating your wealth, so you earned, say, couple of $1 million in this lifetime, that would go away. That would be zeroed down when you start your next life. But any progress you made in the spiritual direction, that would stay with you. So that's why we see different people start at different levels. Like, for example, some people would be at a very young age themselves itself, they would take to spiritual life. And people would be born in that families so that they are already ready for that level. Krishna himself says, such yogi would be born in a very rich family, or the family of a very pious brahmanas, or spiritually minded people, who would, by taking birth in such a family, the jiva gets the opportunity to not worry about material life. If it is if the jiva performed only, say, 10% or 20%, he would be born in a very rich family, like, say, Ambani's family or somebody, where his material problem is taken care. He doesn't have to worry about roti kapda makan. He doesn't bother about that. Is not his concern. Or he would be born in a very pious brahmana, or a very pious Vaishnava, or a very spiritually advanced family, where from the very beginning itself he gets the opportunity to turn to spirituality and make his progress onward from say 25% or 30%, whatever. So he gets such an opportunity. So Krishna says like that. So in this way, Krishna says there is no loss when we practice spiritual life, like studying Gita, chanting the holy name. When we do all this, this is going to give you a balance in your permanent bank account. It's never going to diminish. And through lifetimes, it will continue to be there with you. Any questions on this? This is a very important concept to understand. You may not achieve perfection in this life, but still, you would advance to such a level that it's always progressive. You will not go back again to lower lives by practicing spiritual life in this life.
Prabhu, do you want to speak the analogy that Prabhupada has had given? There was a question and answer session where someone asked Prabhupada about what if there is no God exists, and if you are doing all these things for whom?
Oh yeah.
Can you explain that? Yeah.
So one time, one journalist asked Prabhupada, who started the ISKCON movement, and he spread this across the world. So a lot of times journalists would look for his interview, and they would ask all types of questions. And one of the journalists asked Prabhupada, what if you do all this spiritual life, you spend your time chanting and dancing and eating prasadam, giving up all the all the unwanted things in life, or the materialistic way of life. You do all of that by giving up all this materialistic enjoyment. What if at the end of life you realize that actually there is no Krishna? Of course, that is not a true. That's never going to happen. It's Bhagavad Gita and all these are not fluke. But to give him an idea to his level of consciousness, Prabhupada answers this way. He says, what is the loss? Anyway, we enjoy nice association with people who are very pious and spiritually minded. We offered nice bhoga to God and ate nice prasadam all our life. And we chanted and danced for God. So we didn't really miss. That's what people do to enjoy. They eat nice foods. They try to enjoy by going to bar or dance parties, or they drink or whatever. They are also trying to enjoy through their senses. And we are also enjoying for the pleasure of God. We are eating nice foods prepared for the pleasure of God. We don't give up anything. We eat first quality prasadam by offering bhoga to God. And then, so there is really nothing you are really missing. Okay, what is there? What is the loss even if we, end of the life, we realize that there is no God? Though, of course, it's not the fact, but to make him understand that we are not on the losing side in any case. We are trying to lead according to how Acharya set the standards. And in this endeavor, there is no loss, especially Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga doesn't, like if you take Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, even to achieve a little progress on that path, these are the processes that are prescribed in previous ages, especially like Satya Yoga and Dwapar Yoga. So in these processes, for example, the method prescribed by Adi Shankaracharya, the first prerequisite to advance spiritually, to achieve perfection, is to take to sannyas and completely go away from everybody. But Bhakti Yoga is so powerful because it takes the help of God. We chant the name of God. We have a helping hand. In other process, generally it is dependent on the individual strength. Because of that factor, Bhakti Yoga is so powerful that even a jiva who has taken to Grihastha life can achieve perfection in this very life. We have many acharyas who are actually Grihasthas, they are married. And they have children, they have gone to job, but still they achieved perfection. For example, in the past we have the examples of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was a in the 17th century, 18th century, he was a very renowned person who spread Bhakti Yoga in Bengal far and wide. This same process that we are trying to practice, the chanting of Hare Krishna and study of scriptures, all this. So this Bhakti Yoga was, and he was a Grihastha, he was a magistrate, he was the head of, he was the judge for the entire state of Orissa. Sorry, Bengal. So he was, he was like any other of us. And now also we see so many Grihasthas. So that's all possible because the process is powerful. Okay. Let's move on. So today we'll start this verse. 41 verse, very powerful verse. Vyavasayatmika buddhir yekeha kurunandana bahusakha hi anantascha buddhaya vyavasayinam. Vyavasayatmika means very resolute, one-pointed intelligence. Vyavasayatmika buddhir. Those who are on this path, on which path? The spiritual path. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Bahusaka means many branched. Bahusaka hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayina. To achieve anything in this life, whether it is materially or spiritually, one needs a very one-pointed focus. Similarly, if one wants to achieve perfection spiritually, one has to keep that as the highest priority. Meaning, every day we chant without missing. That shows our sincerity in our efforts, and that thereby it attracts the mercy of God, and we make spiritual progress. We don't progress on our own strength. Especially Bhakti Yoga is a process where we progress by the divine grace or mercy. Another term for it. What is divine grace? Divine grace is basically our spirit of surrender to God. That represents that represents the proper input for our progress. So this particular verse is basically saying that if our mind is moving all around too many things, of course we all have material duties to maintain this body, we continue to do that, but at the back of the mind, all the material duties that we are doing is for what? Ultimately to make spiritual progress. So that should be the front and center. If that is how we lead our life, that will lead to perfection. Yeah. So that's what makes the difference between one who achieves perfection in this one life versus one who is, who cannot achieve that perfection in one life. If we are resolute in our purpose, yes, this human life is a great opportunity, and I had the great opportunity to hear Bhagavad Gita, learn about this. This is once in a lifetime opportunity, not even a lifetime. But the scriptures say, Brahmand Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Pai Bhakti Lata Bis. In this Brahmanda, Jivas are rotating up and down from lower to higher forms of life for many, many millions of lifetimes. But one who is fortunate enough, he comes in contact with a good guru and understands the knowledge of Krishna and makes or paves path for perfection. So all of us are very, very fortunate in that sense that we somehow in this lifetime, uh, especially in this human form of life, we are all able to connect with the wisdom of Gita and learn this wisdom and start. Even now, we started practicing japa, chanting of the Mahamantra. This is a great opportunity. Do not think that this is another thing in my life. No, I will add a little bit of spirituality to my life. No, this is the life. This is the life. That's how we should take it seriously. That's what scriptures say. Everything in scriptures is all perfect. And all scriptures say, no scriptures say, oh, you enjoy this world, this is the way to live in this world, and you would achieve perfection by enjoying your senses. No, none of the scriptures say. Whether you take any religion, every religion or any bona fide spiritual path always recommends only one thing: give up, reduce your material attachments, and turn towards the ultimate purpose of life to achieve perfection. And that is possible through swadhyaya, study of scriptures, through japa, mantra meditation. So all these are processes that help us in that direction. Okay, so one should be one pointed in spiritual direction. Okay, any questions? Yeah. So at this point, right now, we don't have much spiritual understanding. How do we have faith, right? So I'm asking you, okay, we should be one pointed in our determination to achieve perfection on the spiritual path. But at this point, we don't have enough faith. So that is answered here. So faith means Shraddha Saddha Viswasa Kahe, Sudruha, Sudruha Nischaya, Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva, Karma Krita Hai. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world, with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from the past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. One second, sorry. Hare Krishna. No. Mataji, I'm in a class now. I will call you back. No? Yeah, I'll call you. My wife told me I forgot to call. No? Sorry. Yeah, Hare Krishna. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. See, this is the key. So when you start leading spiritual life with the right consciousness, all the activities that you do for your own maintenance of the body and soul together, those are all going to become spiritual activities when you have right mindset. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of material conception of life. What we have to give up is material conception of life. What is material conception of life? The idea that we can enjoy our senses here in this world. That is basically the material conception of life. Everything exists for my own enjoyment. That is the spirit in which we come to this world. Everybody is trying to enjoy his senses to the fullest possible. The whole process of spirituality is to change that consciousness that we are not the enjoyer, we are part and parcel of a, the whole, the whole that is God. And as part and parcel, we are not entitled to enjoy these senses. That's not the purpose. We have to turn to God, the higher dimension. And that's where our true enjoyment is. Right now, we are in between. We are neither completely on the spiritual side. Now we understand the material conception of life is, we all have experienced that material life is always ups and downs. It's not going to be steady curve of enjoyment. Couple of days we are miserable, couple of days we are happy, again we are miserable. It's like a sine wave, up and down going. So we should all understand by this age, at least, by seeing deaths of our own relatives, by going through all this world is a temporary and a place of misery. And the jiva, the real self, which is the soul, is actually eternal. That's why it cannot accept this concept of death. And so the jiva should understand, the soul should understand that I do not belong to this material realm. This material realm is a place, a temporary place. I have to edge myself to the spiritual realm. And that happens when our too much hope of material enjoyment in this world goes away. When we have any hope that I can enjoy in this world, that is one reason that can keep us in this world. Meaning, when I say it can keep us in this material world, at one point or the other, we will be coming back to this material world. That is called material conception of life. Material conception of life means there is something to enjoy in this world for me. Right? Any selfish enjoyment, I can enjoy by doing this, I can enjoy by doing that, without consideration of God. If you are thinking that I can enjoy, when in the consideration of God, like for example, oh, I'm going to, I'm going to learn the scriptures, and ultimately my goal is that I'll spend more and more of my time spiritually by teaching this knowledge to more people and singing the bhajans of God. So that's not material conception of life. That may be giving you a kick in life to, that is something that you are looking forward. That is perfectly all right. The concept like, oh, I will earn $1 million, then I will, I will go spend in casino, or I would buy a luxury home where I can enjoy with servant maids. If you have such concepts, those are material conceptions of life. So if we have any of such hopes, that is very that's a hope against hope. That's not that's very detrimental. And if we are riding on the boat of spiritual life with one leg on the spiritual path and another leg with a hope of material enjoyment in the future, that's not very favorable. We should, at this point, understand this human body is a great opportunity. I can understand the purpose of life. I can, through the practice of bhakti yoga and with the association of uh, you know satsang, like all of us are in satsang right now. Satsang means the association of good people. uh, in this association, I take advantage of this and use this human form of life to its perfection. This one life, give it to spirituality. That's enough. That to go back to God. We may still be getting miseries of life. It doesn't mean that all your miseries are going to end because now you started practicing spiritual life. But every misery that we go through in this life would become a stepping stone for us. Every time makes our dependence on God more. That is how then that opportunity of misery in our life is a great opportunity to connect with God more strongly. So that's how the spiritualists see. They see either in good or bad situations, they do not uh, go away from God. Oh, I'm surrendering to God. Why am I going through miseries? A spiritually minded person doesn't think like that. In fact, he thinks that my miseries have been very much reduced, and actually, that's what happens. We get we had incurred karma in the past. Who has to pay for it? We only have to pay for it. If we get the miseries, it is we are the reason for our misery. It's not God who is the reason for our misery. In fact, those who lead spiritual life, their miseries would be reduced a lot because of their, God would have to reduce that. If you suppose you are supposed to go through a big accident where you break your legs completely, uh, that would turn out to be a, an accident where you just fall down and you get bedridden for say a couple of days. So you still go through, you get a token of reaction. You see, that's what we call. If you are supposed to get 10x reaction, you would get 1x reaction. 1/10 of that reaction. So we still go through our miseries. Well, when we go through miseries, don't think that, oh, God is not kind to me. Why is God make, in spite of me surrendering to life, why is God giving me all these troubles? No, God is not giving you trouble. It is we who made we in the we just are carrying our own baggage. Nobody's to blame. Neither our family, neither God, nobody. Not our parents. No, we are responsible for our own reactions. So take our own. We should take own our responsibility. We should stand for our, for what we get. Nobody else is responsible for our. Every individual jiva is individual, and accordingly, take that opportunity, the miseries in our life that we face, as opportunities to connect with God more closely. When I had rough times after taking to spiritual life, those were the best times when I actually had connected with God in the best possible way. Those are the best times of my life. Looking back, I can see that those have changed, those have actually helped me develop spiritually because uh, my false ego reduced. I can clearly see how I have turned out to be after that particular ordeal of, you know, the karma comes in, doses. For say few months you are in misery because of financial losses or troubles at office or troubles in family. Say 2-3 months of a bad period you go through, and in that period you connect with God strongly. You become more humble. That end of the 2 months period, you would see that you have become a better person. You have you have crossed many hurdles of your consciousness, and you have stronger dependency in God. So in this way, all the miseries in our life are actually stepping stones for our progress in spiritual life. Do not think that, okay, I have taken to spiritual life, so all my life is going to be more smoother. No, there will be going there is a lot of purification still pending in our heart, and God would provide all these opportunities. Consider this as an opportunities to get to the next level of our of our journey in spiritual life.
So, Prabhu, this is also a perfect point for the story of Narada in the previous life. Do you think so?
Which story? There are a lot of stories. Which one you?
Narada was a son of a
Oh,
maid, and how
can
his misery ended, and how he was firm in the Krishna consciousness, and
you share
how
it?
he.
Can you share it? I can share.
Yes.
Would like you to share.
Okay. Yeah. You can share it later. Yeah. Do you
No,
want me to say, or you can?
I would like to, and I can add if there is anything.
Prabhu, I'm not able to hear you. Your voice is breaking.
I would like to hear from you. I'm saying.
Oh, Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu. So I just read a part of the Bhagavatam, and it says that how Narad Muni once comes to the Vasudev. Vasudev is the author of Mahabharata, and after writing all the Puranas, before writing the Bhagavatam, he sits and he still has a crunch of that there's something is missing, and he feels like I don't know what is missing, and he's just feeling that I don't have direction. So Narad Muni comes and visit Vasudev, and Narad Muni gets the instruction from Vishnu that go and meet Vasudev and fulfill his desire. So he meets and he encourage him to. I mean, so when they Vasudev welcomes Narad Muni, then Narad Muni first says, "Let's hear about me." In my previous life, Narad Muni explains that I was a son of a dasi putra, means maid servant, and I used to be my mother was very poor. She used to serve the saintly people who used to come and visit the place, visit the town. And one time there was the same period that we have is a chaturmas. The saintly people came and stayed nearby in the same town nearby his house, and his mother used to go and serve these saintly people. So remnant of the saintly people's remnant food used to be given to the Narad Muni and his mother. And by taking the food of the saintly people, they got purified. Now, after these people left, they gave a blessing. And after some time, Narad Muni was only alone with his mother. Narad Muni's mother got bitten by a snake, poisonous snake, and she died.
The story.
And
The boy
yes,
is only 5 year old,
yes, Narad Muni was 5 year old, correct.
cool person, and
Yes,
he
yes,
passed away at that time. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
yes. So Narad Muni was just 5 year old. He didn't had enough intelligence to even do or go on his own, and his mother now left. So think about the pain and the problem that he must be going through. But the Narad Muni thought in the heart that he praised the God, and he said, God, I only had one attachment. That was my mother in this material life. And you have taken that attachment from me. Now I only have you and nobody else to depend on. And with that thought, he started walking to the north. And he's gone to the forest and going ahead with the different kind of forest. There's so many wild animals, and he's keep going. He's searching for the truth, searching for the God, and eventually he sits down and start meditating, and God gives him just a little glimpse of his picture that the super soul exists in himself as a Paramatma, and he sees and he gets attracted, and then even suddenly it disappears within a moment. And then he keeps searching, where is it? I saw it, I just want to see, I don't want to give up. And then Krishna says that you will not be able to see me in this life, but if you keep your devotional service strong, then next life you will become my greatest devotee. And that's the next life. Narad Muni happens to be a great devotee.
Thank you. So, yeah, apparently in this life, he didn't achieve perfection, or he could not. So, the whole material aspect of his life was so miserable, right? He's a young, very small boy, doesn't have any education. His mother was bitten by snake, and he goes on. He doesn't, become hopeless. He continues on his path, the spiritual journey, and he thanks, even in that condition of life, he was thankful to God. And the exact words, Vishnu appears in his in his mind's eye, and he says to him, I regret, oh boy, I regret that I could not give you any further darshan because you are not yet qualified for it.
Hmm.
Because he says, I regret, because God wants to give his darshan, but unless we are ready for it, he wouldn't.
Yes, yes, yes.
So he gives that glimpse just as an accelerator for him to, or an encouragement, so that he would stick to this path. And with that, after seeing, after experiencing Paramatma in the heart, Narada Muni, his previous life, he is not Narada Muni at the time, he really gets the taste. Yes, this is something I can do. This is something, achievable, and this is it. This is the goal of life. And he continues, performance of tapasya through his life complete, and he passes away in this life, and he becomes a great devotee Narada, who always chants the name of Narayana, and who can travel all across the universe, anywhere, any place, with a spiritual body. Narada has a spiritual body. He doesn't have a material body like us. So, he becomes the greatest, of Lord Narayana. So that's the story of Narada Muni.
Yes,
Thank you, Prabhu.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Reading nicely and reminding about it. So the resolute person of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabhaha. Vasudeva Sarvamiti means Vasudeva is everything. Samahatma Sudurlabha. Such a Mahatma is Sudurlabha means very rare. A person who comes to the understanding that Vasudeva means Krishna. He is everything. That's the purpose of life. Such a person is rare, Krishna says. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches, so by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. So why we focus on Krishna? Because Krishna, what is Krishna? Krishna is God, the super soul, but Krishna includes everybody and everything. There is nothing that is separate and exists separately from God or Krishna. You can replace word God with Krishna also. But the idea is, as by watering root of a tree, you can serve and satisfy the entire tree, all the branches, all the leaves. You don't need to separately satisfy. Similarly, by satisfying God, one can satisfy everybody, demigods, family, everybody. Because by one's surrender to God, one actually uh, automatically satisfies everyone. Just like anybody remembers this story that we described in this context? Anybody?
Yeah, this is the story of Draupadi and that Akshaya Patra.
Yeah, Draupadi and Akshay Patra. What did she do? Mataji, can you explain?
Yeah, so these I think it is Parash. I don't know if it was, no, I don't remember who the saints were, but the saints come to Draupadi's house and they want food, but she has the Akshaya Patra, means she's already had food, so means she won't get anything. And then Lord Krishna comes there and tells her that there is still some grain of food left in that patram, and to bring it to him. And then she hesitantly goes and gets it, and then the Lord eats like a morsel of rice that's stuck to the plate, and then he is satisfied. And so all the saints who were hungry and taking a bath to come back, they are like so full that they're not able to um, eat even a grain. Yeah.
When they run away, right?
Yeah, and they run away.
This is a Durvasa Muni, yeah, and he met.
Durvasa Muni, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Beautiful.
beautiful story, right? Yeah. So just by satisfying Krishna, everybody was satisfied. So do not think that, sometimes some people ask, oh, why you do such a opulent worship of Krishna in your temples? But actually, when you satisfy God in that way, the entire atmosphere becomes very auspicious. All these towns, become, very auspicious places, and everybody would be receiving blessings. So by serving God, it's never, some people say, or why you spend money, instead you should serve poor, poor and rich. Of course, you can serve poor and rich, but that should not exclude serving God, right? By serving God, actually one serves everyone. For example, ISKCON does this food for life. Food for life means it distributes food, especially in India. It distributes to millions of children afternoon meal, especially one of the reasons parents, poor families, they don't send their children to schools is that they don't have they don't have income. They want children to work so that they can get enough food for the day. But by the program of Akshapatra, which government organizes with ISKCON, they get a nutritious meal almost across the country. ISKCON Akshapatra as well as ISKCON Society completely serves lunch meal so that all these children who would otherwise be starving would get a nice meal for the day. For many children, that is the only meal. And all this meal is prepared how? They first, the devotees, the bhaktas who actually do this, they would first offer to Krishna, and they would actually serve the prasadam. After offering that bhoga to Krishna, they would take that food and mix with the rest of the food and offer this nice, sumptuous, hot, delicious meal to all the children, all the poor children across the country. So that's how they serve everyone. So serving people should not exclude serving God. It should be inclusive in serving God. Yeah. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschita vedavadaratah parda nanyudastiti vadina kamatmanah swargapara janma karma falapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati. It's a beautiful verse. No, so Krishna is comparing between karma kanda and karma yoga. Now, after describing karma yogi's irresolute purpose, he talks about the other side. Unless we do compare and contrast, we don't really understand the full, full purport of the message. So now Krishna talks about the karma kandis whose mind is irresolute, and those people whose mind is going everywhere to sense gratification. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Many people, even in India right now also, they are pious, and they follow Vedas. They are called Vedavada Vrata, but they do all the pujas for what? For sense gratification. Vedas are filled with 90% of Vedas is filled with these flowery words. Krishna describes nicely flowery words of Vedas. And what do they say? Oh, do this puja, please this demigod Varuna, and you get nice rain. Please this Mother Parvati, through this performance of this so and so vrata, and you get a nice husband. You get a rich husband, or you get a beautiful wife. Pray to Lord Shiva and perform this vrata. You get a very beautiful husband, or rich husband, like that. So Vedas have all these various vratas and pujas that award. Actually, they would award sometimes in the next life, or even in this life, you may get power and money, all these things. or in the next life you may get heavenly planet, right? And so these people, what do they do? Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life. What is this? I was talking about material conception of life. That is this. Thinking that I can enjoy in this world or in, on a higher planet, like a heavenly planet. They say that there is nothing more than this. They think all these people, who follow Vedas, but not to its ultimate purpose. Vedas, of course, they are filled with 90% of wisdom is filled with vratas to achieve better, opulent sense gratification and opulent life. But actually, the real purpose of Vedas is not in these sections of the Vedas. The real purpose of the Vedas is in the Upanishads. The last section, Aranyakas also touch that. And primarily Upanishads have the conclusion of Vedas. Because a jiva tries to enjoy in this world, but ultimately all his enjoyment gets frustrated. All the enjoyment that he was hopeful of gives only frustration at the end of it. Either you try to enjoy and get frustrated and come to your senses and take to the the real sections of Vedas, which is Upanishads, like studying of Gita and all is under that kind of a thing. Understand real purpose and real purpose of life and seek after God. Or like Krishna is saying, Krishna himself is rejecting all these vratas in one sense. He's saying that's not the real purpose. You may try to enjoy the senses, but senses are, they're only going to crave more. You give them, it's just like, in another verse, Krishna says, the sense gratification, meaning trying to enjoy with our senses, to see nice things or to eat nice, better foods. This process is like putting ghee in fire. You think, oh, it's too much disturbing me. Let me just do this thing and maybe my desire will go away. Let me enjoy this one thing. Let me buy this one stupid car, Tesla car. Maybe I'll become happy after that. No, it doesn't work like that. I mean, I'm not saying you should not buy Tesla car, but all I'm saying is it's endless. You're thinking that maybe I can improve my material standard of life and that would give me better happiness. No, that's never. It will give you a happiness to some level, but that's not real ultimate happiness. That's a little better standard. But you as a human being are have far more potential to achieve far more greater happiness spiritually. So don't fall for these small baits. That's what Krishna is saying. These are all small baits. Don't fall for them. You may think Krishna is saying being desirous of sense gratification and opulence. They say means those who are karma kandis, who think that there is no higher purpose than following Vedas to actually achieve better sense gratification. So Krishna rejects those people. So there is further description of so this karma kanda section of Vedas. It is said, Apama, Somam, Amrita, Abhuma, and Akshayam Vai Chaturmasya Yagni Sukritam Bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penance become eligible to drink the Somarasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have Somarasa to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratifications. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana, in which there is a great opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women, and having a profuse supply of somarasa wine. This is in the heavenly planets. Do not think that heaven, going to heaven is a great thing. It's no big deal. None of the devotees actually aspire for it. Such bodily pleasures, happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material temporary happiness as lords of the material world. That's not Krishna rejects this idea. Krishna himself rejects. And further description of those people. Bhoga Aishwarya Prasaktana Tayapahrita Chetasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadhauna Vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotion service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So if our mind is too much attached to enjoying life in one way or the other, resolute determination for bhakti yoga does not take place. I said, right? So one must be vyavasayatmika buddhi in the previous verse, two verses back. That determination is very difficult if our mind is after sense gratification. Vyavasayatmika buddhi yekeha kurunandana. That is very difficult if our mind is attached to. Krishna is cautioning that if we want to make serious progress spiritually, be cautious. Don't be attached to bhoga and aishwarya. Doesn't mean that you don't make money. Understand the purpose of making money is to help you take care of your material duties. One aspect, that money should help you to make spiritual progress. These are the two things. If your understanding is, oh, if I have more money I can enjoy by going to Las Vegas, that is nonsense in one way. Yeah. And if you're thinking like that, then you will never achieve a strong determination to make spiritual progress. Krishna is warning us. Oh, should we end here? This is another, again, Krishna again, in one way rejects Vedas, part of the Vedas. Shall we complete this verse also and then move on with the next verse in the next section, in the next class? Or should we end here? It's already 6:15. Anybody? Nitin Prabhu?
Prabhu, you wanted to take some small quiz, right? So
Oh,
we
yeah.
can end here and.
But I had some training this weekend. I could not.
Oh, is it okay? No problem.
But I generally do it on spend some time on weekend to
Oh, is it okay? Okay. No problem, Prabhu. So maybe we can end here and we can start next week.
It's a small section. Read if you haven't read it, just go through it. It's very easy. I'll just ask one of you to answer, not handpick, but any of you can raise your hand and answer it. It's just some fun time. I'll
Yes,
ask you next week. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Whoever are interested can participate.
Yes.
Okay. Then. With that said, we'll end the class here. Very nice verses are coming up.
Yes, Prabhu.
So this whole section today we discussed is understand that we should be seriously minded to make spiritual progress. So I hope all of you are able to take out a few minutes of your time to chant every day. Is that happening? Any of you? If you have any challenges, or if you have any difficulties in doing that, please let me know. We can discuss now, or later one-on-one. You can message me. You need any kind of help or any kind of inputs, let me know. Okay. If you have any questions on what we discussed today, you're welcome. Anybody? Anything?
Prabhuji, one of the biggest challenges that I feel is like attachment, right? I was very attached to my dad, and then I lost my dad, and I was very much sad for a very long time. And now I have my kids, and then I keep wondering, am I getting too attached to them? Am I getting too attached to my husband? Like, what is going to happen when when there is another loss, right? I mean, God forbid, but that is inevitable. So, how do you like not attached to either it's for some people it's relationships, or some people it's money, or some other material desires, but how do you not attach to these things, or figure out that this is attachment, and then try to attach to something else, maybe God, I don't know.
Yeah. So understand through the wisdom of Gita from what we are learning, and that ultimately who is our real father? Krishna.
Lord Shri Krishna.
Shri Narayana, called with any name. So Krishna himself says, Aham Beja Pradapita. I am the father of all the living entities. Understand, ultimately Krishna or God is our real father. And all of us in this world ultimately have to understand that, and make our life perfect by going back to him. And understand the family that is given to us, our husband, wife, children. They're all also children of God, ultimately. They are first children of God before you consider that they are your children or your husband. Okay, first understand they are that is the primary relation of them. Right? Your is of course in this one lifetime. They will continue to exist in the next life, and they have to come back to this world, father, mother. Right? Connection. There was a nice story um, in the in Purana. There are multiple stories. One of them is the story of Chitraketu, Maharaj Chitraketu. Can I take some time to explain this story? This is a little long story. It might take 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
Prabhu.
Yes.
Chitraketu, he was a great king, ages ago. He would not have children. He had everything, but he wouldn't have children. So, but he wanted a progeny so that his dynasty can continue ruling the country, right, ruling the world. So in the hopes of getting children, he marries many women, but unfortunately, nobody was able to produce a children. Ultimately, he was so depressed, he was almost at the verge of death. At that time, Angira Muni comes uh, to his court and promises him that if he wants really, he can get a child. Then his hopes become sprouted, and Angira he performs certain yajna, and ultimately a child would be born, son would be born. And this Chitragati, in the hope of getting children, he would just marry so many women, thousands and thousands of women, but he wouldn't get. But ultimately, one of the primary queen delivers one child, and Angir Muni asks him to name the child Harsha Soka. What is the name? Harsha Soka. So the child would be raised, the king's happiness would have no bound. And Angir Muni warns that this happiness is not going to last very long. Chitraketu was not worried. He had this one desire, which is killing his life. He ultimately got fulfilled, and he gets this son, and he names him Chitraketu. Sorry, he names him Harshasoka. And Angir Muni would go away, and the child would be raised. And in the process, because the king was so attached to to the child, he would give so much attention to that one wife neglecting all the other thousands of wives. So naturally, what happens in this middle world? If a person gets neglected, he would become envious. So though all the other wives would become so envious of this one wife, they think that this wife and this child are the reason for their misery. And they become so miserable, so depressed. All of them come together, they make a plan to do what? To kill the child. Unfortunate, but that's what happens. Middle world is like that. And without the, anybody notice, they somehow poison the child, and the child gets, he dies. Again, the king was back to his moroseness, because all his hopes were on his one child. Now he's at the bottom of his life. He can't take this anymore. At this time, Angiramuni comes again to the court. He reasons why he was named Harsha Soka. Harsha Soka means a child who gives Harsha first and then Soka at the end. And then he would come to the court. The boy is lying there dead in the lap of this great king Chitraketu. And Narada Muni, Angira Muni would ask the boy, "Oh boy, rise and tell who you are." The boy, out of nowhere, would rise, come to consciousness, and would rise from his deathbed and speak to the audience there, speak to his father, Angira Muni, everyone. Angira Muni asked, "Who are you? And whose son are you?" And then to that, the boy would reply, "Oh," the king would say, "Oh, my son, I am your father." And the boy would say, "Oh, in what lifetime are you talking about? I had so many fathers in the past and so many mothers in the past. You are father in this life, but I had so and so father in my previous life and so and so father in another life." So this boy had this spiritual wisdom at this time, and he would speak philosophy at the time. That would open the spiritual eye of Chitraketu. He would realize that his attachment to his son had caused this state of mind or depressed state for him. So and the boy, after giving some discourse, kind of information, spiritual inputs to the father, he would again go back to deathbed and he would just pass away again. But in this whole episode, King Chitraketu would learn detachment. This is the learning the hard way, right? Through an experience. But by through the wisdom of Gita, we can learn without going through all these hardships. Try to keep away your attachments. Understand everybody is in this play. We are all in a drama, right? Who is rich, who is poor? All this drama is enacted for a lifetime, and once we leave the body, all the drama stops. And again, we are all like bubbles, coming together and going forward, going away in an ocean. Bubbles in an ocean. Is there any particular pattern to what bubble is going to come together? What bubbles will separate again? There is no. So many bubbles come together. Again they depart. Again they come together. We are like that in this life, in this world. Doesn't mean that we're not going to have any love for our children. We should have, because it's our service, as accept them as children of God and serve them. That is your duty. Serve them because you love God. You love your children because they are all children of God. Because you love God, you love your father, your mother, your husband, your wife, whoever it is. Understand, they're all lovingly given put in your hand by God. That's how you see. Then your whole understanding will change. Okay?
Okay, makes sense. Hare Krishna.
And
Thanks,
through
Prabhuji.
understanding, study of Gita, this will become your natural process of thinking over a period of time. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much. We'll end the class here. Hare Krishna. See you all next week. We'll start with verse 45.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.